Now, we hear American politicians like Hassett and Donald Trump say fentanyl is flowing from Canada into the U.S. What do we know about how true that is?
I mean, it's not true at all. The amount of fentanyl that goes into the US from Canada is like a tiny fraction. I believe last year it was around 42 pounds compared to over 20,000 pounds that was coming from the southern border. And even of that 42 pounds, I was reading in the Globe and Mail, a third of it was found in Washington state. So it wasn't linked to Canada at all. So ultimately, I do think this is sort of political theater. I don't think it's a true narrative.
So, when we talk about the fentanyl crisis in Canada, where are those drugs coming from?
We used to buy finished fentanyl from China, but in 2019, under pressure from Donald Trump, China cracked down on fentanyl and its derivatives. And at that point, Mexican cartels started stepping up and producing their own fentanyl. And we've also seen in Canada a rise in sort of domestic super labs and domestic production, particularly in the Western provinces.
Well, I mean, we all know who live in these cities that it is a problem. We see it every day. How would you describe how serious the fentanyl drug crisis is in Canada right now? And have there been any improvements?
We've had, over 50,000 deaths since 2016. But there has been sort of a downward trend. So BC overdose deaths dropped by 13% last year. In Canada, they went down overall. They're also ticking downwards in Alberta. We don't really know why that is because it's such a complicated question. It could have to do with changes in the drug supply. It could have to do with different sort of policy models where they're harm reduction, treatment, things like that. So it's really tough to say exactly why it's trending downwards because the drug problem is so regional.
Alberta and Canada have vowed to crack down on drugs at the border with various plans ever since the U.S. president said this is a priority. What do you make of these plans?
I think that Trudeau is playing ball because of sort of the threat of tariffs. And so I don't necessarily fault him for that. But ultimately, we have had crackdowns like this. We've had sort of, whether a Democratic president or a Republican president, there's always talk about increased border security. And ultimately, it hasn't stopped the flow of drugs. And these drug trafficking organizations are very innovative. So no matter what we do, they will find ways to circumvent the laws.